Elon Musk and Ramaswamy and Speaker Johnson are now proving is that they absolutely have no ability to govern.
The spending bill is dead, and some people are not happy and they are lashing out. Watch.
And there's no reason that they can't have a continuing resolution that will take them up until Donald Trump becomes president, and then he calls the shots. And he brings in the people that help to call those shots.
But the problem is that Donald Trump has now put on the table, don't do anything with any bill if you don't raise the debt limit. That's insane. It takes months to negotiate a debt limit. So I actually don't think that the majority of the people voted wittingly for this. The people voted for somebody, a group of people, a group of leaders to govern. And what Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Ramaswamy and Speaker Johnson are now proving is that they absolutely have no ability to govern, and perhaps, worse than that, not even an interest in governing.
The Republican on the panel was right. They could have a resolution until Trump takes office. Maria Cardona states that it takes months of negotiation to agree on a debt limit. Now, that is only necessarily the case when you have a Congress divided, with neither side having control of the executive, the House, and the Senate at the same time, which is clearly not the case here. A bill could be done quickly. She also claims that Musk and Trump have no ability and no interest in governing. This is clearly not true, and it is a partisan hack position. Here we see the bill actually did not pass, as seen in the C-SPAN footage. But the hack arguments continue.
On this vote, the yeas are 174, the nays are 235, one voting present. Two-thirds not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended and the bill is not passed.
As Americans face the threat of a government shutdown, there are new concerns about Elon Musk's growing influence over Donald Trump. The world's richest man kicked off the drama with one tweet. This happened early yesterday morning, saying the bipartisan deal to keep the government running should not pass. More than 13 hours later, the president-elect joined him, warning any Republican who supported the deal would be primaried.
Here, Jim Acosta points to the fact that Trump had warned that any Republicans who did not toe the line on this would face primary challenges. He also talks again about new concerns about Elon Musk's growing influence. New concerns from who? This is purely a contrived concern by CNN and the Democrats. This is very similar to journalists saying, a source said, where in fact that source is the journalists themselves. They are self-referencing. If you enjoy this sort of content, please like, share and subscribe. Now just look at the Democrats pushing this ridiculous message that Musk is running things. It's just yet another of their talking points.
Billionaires, Trump and Musk, who are calling the shots on this and not recognizing that they do not control government right now.
For President Musk to come in at the last moment and blow up the deal is just intolerable.
North Carolinians are going to get hit hard because of partisan political games from a totally inept Donald Trump and his, shadow president boss Elon Musk.
They should remember one thing. The only way to get things done is through bipartisanship.
Just look at these ridiculous, unthinking Democrat talking heads. The same ludicrous message about Musk running the show. And so clearly Acosta at CNN doing his side's bidding in talking the point up on CNN. Look at how ridiculous Brian Stelter and Jim Acosta are.
It oftentimes seems that Musk is learning about how government works for the first time. And there is value in having an outsider's point of view. Lord knows when you have newly elected lawmakers come to Washington, they come with new and fresh and innovative ideas. That is a part of what makes government better. But Musk, this unelected figure who has this enormous amount of power, it sometimes seems as if he's just starting to learn how the government functions. It oftentimes seems that Musk is learning about how government works for the first time. And there is value in having an outsider's point of view. Lord knows when you have newly elected lawmakers come to Washington, they come with new and fresh and innovative ideas. That is a part of what makes government better. But Musk, this unelected figure who has this enormous amount of power, it sometimes seems as if he's just starting to learn how the government functions. And
here you have the crazy talking point by Stelter that Musk is only just starting to know how government works. This is ridiculous. In the course of his massive business dealings, he would be continually dealing with government about funding, about laws, about regulations, about approvals, etc., etc., etc. In terms of the impact and blowback of the killing of the spending bill, George Will has the following to say.
It's sort of penalty-free for Republicans, is it not, to have this and to prove that they're serious?
It is.
Will admits that before Trump's inauguration, the blocking of the bill is penalty-free. After all, Biden is still theoretically in office, even if we don't see much evidence of that. Then we come to the Fani Willis affair, literally and figuratively.
He's got to get to Fulton County, Georgia. And here we go. A Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, from that election interference case. It's coming down right now. The case against Trump and more than a dozen others already largely stalled, as you know. The new ruling means that it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's council in the state of Georgia to find another prosecutor to decide on the case, to take it over and make a decision as to whether or not they continue with a prosecution of the incoming president.
And former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo is here. John, does this mean that this is yet another one of the cases against Trump that could go away before he's president?
It's another example, Dana, of this lawfare campaign that was waged by Democrats, boomeranging back on them and falling all around their ears. Anyone who watched this trial, remember, this is the DA who claimed that the entire Trump reelection campaign was something like an organized crime racket that was intending to deprive everyone of our civil rights to vote. But remember, we saw the dramatic testimony over the summer of how DA Fani Willis had hired her boyfriend, essentially, to be the special counsel, overpaid him, and then had him investigate and bring charges against Donald Trump.
Fani Willis has been disqualified from the election interference case, which is stalled anyway. John Yoo states that this is yet another case of lawfare that has boomeranged. Does anyone really think that someone else will continue to prosecute the case with all of the legal problems inherent? I doubt it. Why would anyone want to pick up a hand grenade with the pin removed? It's likely to go.
To the allegation that their finances had been intermingled because Nathan Wade was being paid a lot of money to work on this case. The testimony was essentially that they split the costs on everything and they did it all by cash. Well, the trial judge here found that there were significant questions about the truthfulness of Fani Willis's testimony. The trial judge said, quote, the odor of mendacity remains around this case. He said there's real questions about whether her testimony was untruthful. That's a quote, untruthful, from the trial judge. But nonetheless, the trial judge said, well, we can solve this if Nathan Wade leaves the case. And that's what ended up happening. But clearly the Court of Appeals has now decided that's not sufficient. They lay substantial blame at the feet of the elected district attorney, Fani Willis. And now as a result, this case, it's not quite dismissed, but it means that Fani Willis and her office will be disqualified from handling.
Further on the Fani Willis affair, the finances of Willis and her boyfriend were that they supposedly shared the cash. The trial judge in the case talked about an odour of mendacity and did not believe her truthfulness. However, the Court of Appeals decided that boyfriend Wade dismissing himself was inadequate and he would not allow Fani Willis to continue. So Fani Willis was disqualified. Georgetown law professor Jonathan Turley continues.
From a legal standpoint, was she wrong to bring the case, or was she wrong to package it with 14, 16, 18 other people?
She was wrong to bring the case against Trump. You know, there are some viable claims here. You know, she charged some people with unlawful entry or access to restricted areas. Those are not particularly serious crimes, but they are crimes. She was wrong to go after Trump on this basis. She clearly wanted to engage in lawfare, and that's one of the reasons why she wouldn't give up the case. You know, when this issue was first raised, many of us wrote at the time that the correct move is to remove yourself. You selected a former lover as the lead counsel.
Turley states that there are some viable cases here, but the case against Trump should never have been pursued. This was a case of lawfare and a case that Fani Willis wanted too much. Then we have the issue of Israel and their war with Hamas and Trump's soon-to-be administration and the impact that it will have on things.
One last one on this. When you say that there will be hell to pay if the hostages are not released before January 20th, what does that mean?
Well, they're going to have to determine what that means. But it means it won't be pleasant.
Mr. President,
it's not going to be pleasant, yeah?
Trump says that Hamas will have to determine what it means when he says there will be all hell to pay if the hostages are not released by January 20th. And he said it will not be pleasant. In terms of the impacts that he will or is having in the Middle East,
Israel was closer to a ceasefire deal than it's ever been. We've heard this language before, though. Leland, is anything truly different this time around?
Donald Trump becoming president in 32 days. And that has changed the calculus for Hamas because it's changed the calculus for Iran. And there's a feeling in the Middle East, but especially in Israel, that with President Trump retaking office, the rules will change. We saw what he said. If the hostages are not released by the time he's in office, they'll be released in a different way. There will be a price to pay unlike any other price. There's history for this, Marky. We saw in 1981, the Iranian hostage crisis at the embassy in Tehran. The hostages were released literally as Ronald Reagan was taking the oath of office because the Iranians were so scared as to what Reagan would do as compared to what Carter had done.
Trump becoming president changes things for Hamas and Iran. Rules will change, and Hamas is now pushing for a deal as they are very worried about what Trump will do when he takes office. They're afraid of a much stronger response. I've always said that Trump reminds me in many ways of a less polished Ronald Reagan, and this certainly adds to that conviction. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching.